Right. In a group online, there's a question about when you want to change this background here. I think in their case they had a studio backdrop and they wanted to blur it a lot more or something like that. And this might be suitable. I'm choosing this one because there is a lot of relatively clean edges. I'm just hoping it'll work out. But it could be anything from wanting to darken up the background, blurring it, to putting a motion blur or whatever in there without affecting the subject. Now, first of all, duplicate the layer, Control J. Just so we've always got a clean original to go back to. Now, the problem when you, the common thing is to go select subject, it's not a bad selection actually, and most people will then Control J to put that on its own layer. They'll then come to here and do, we'll just try a basic Gaussian blur, just make the background more out of focus. And when we exaggerate the hell out of this, you can see the problem that occurs, that people are having a problem with, is there's this shading around the very edge here that's quite noticeable. If I go back and choose a different zoom, because I've done this on things where I'm doing a motion blur. Why is that not? Oh, I accidentally deselected it. Well, deselected, I meant to hit Z. There, that's what I meant to do. Duh, I wasn't paying attention to my own thing. Anyway, filter, blur. Motion blur. It sometimes can be quite noticeable on motion blur. You'll see a certain amount of ghosting of me. In fact, you can see it just here. That there is actually my shoulder that's behind this layer being blurred across. And we can see that when we turn that on and off. Alright, so the way to fix that is you've got your background layer and you've got your subject layer. Make sure your subject layer is the active one. Control click on your subject layer, then hide it. Got your marching ants, it's selected. Go to select, modify, expand, and you'll see I've done this a few times, so generally about 5 pixels is good enough. I don't think you need to go much more than that. And then just make sure you've got one of the selection tools, either that one or that one selected. Right click, generative fill. I call it generative AI, generative fill. Let it do its work. And we should see me disappear, or at least most of me disappear. What it fills it with doesn't have to be perfect. All it has to do is be close enough to what that background would look like behind me to not be me effectively. And it did an even better job than I thought it was going to do. Holy cow. Anyway, so now we've got that clean background. Got to remember to, on that layer that the generative fill created, go Control E to put it down onto the layer there. So now we've got background without me in it. We've got me. Now, leaving me sitting there is good enough. We can go to our blur and say pick Gaussian blur and blur the hell out of it, and notice there's no ghosting around the edge. So we might do that, or we could go filter blur, try radial blur. Zoom, give it a percentage, I don't know, about there somewhere. I hate the way you don't get a preview with this. You get that there, but you don't get a proper preview like you do in everything else. Come on, Adobe, wake up. There, I've created, I might even go a bit more. Radial blur, zoom, bump it up just a little bit more, about 32-ish, 31, 32, something like that. There. I've created a blur, but I don't have any of that ghosting around the edge. In some images you might want to go and make a selection that's just the last couple of pixels and just feather them just a little tiny bit. But that'll do like that, you know. Yeah. So that's pretty much how you do it and create that alteration to the background and not have the ghosting. And it can be used to completely replace the background as well. You could, as I did before, we can go to the blur gallery, go to Gaussian blur, and blur the living daylights out of it, like that. If you really wanted to, God knows why you'd want to do that. But if you then change the opacity, you could make it look vaguely like it's a bit foggy, or you could then layer in some cloud effects and have a bit of a slightly different effect on there. There's all sorts of things you could do with that. I just will leave it like that. And that's pretty much all you need to do.